Just some housekeeping, a couple things that I want to get on video. Somebody had asked about this thing. I had it in a video a couple years ago. I'll show it to you really quickly. I don't have to tell you if you have a bunch of them, drywall knives are a pain. You don't want to damage the edge. The one thing I don't like about this caddy is that the big knife is hard to get in. You have to go like this. But I guess I could grind a little bit off each side. Nobody would know. It's not like it would affect productivity, right? So they're just slots. They're not even cut slots. They're just pieces of plywood that were nailed to this larger board at the appropriate spacing. This one's my favorite. One thing worth mentioning, if you do this, don't put your knives away wet. Make sure they're dry or you'll come back to a surprise. Rusty knives, and nobody likes that. The game. This was just the first of quite a number of games that I have yet to release. It was not well received, surprisingly. I had to throw it under the bus because I have a number of games to release. This game was sort of grease the wheels again because my channel has been in limbo for a long time, and so I wanted to get some activity. Typically YouTube activity it snowballs. When you're on a roll, it's easier to keep that inertia, and at this point I've been gone for so long that I'm no longer relevant in the woodworking genre. Maybe I never was. In either case, I just want those of you who watch these to know that I have several games to release that are really well thought out in my opinion. I'm really proud of them. They're kind of intellectual properties that are rather precious to me, and I'm just being careful about how and when I'm releasing them. I don't want you to think that stacking game was the best I can do. It is still cold outside. This has been the coldest April that I can remember. I just dropped this cluster of trees, well, I don't know, over the last week or two. This one was significant. I have a nice, it's maple. That's, I think, 13 feet, if I remember, 13 or 14 feet, I can't remember. But I'm going to mill it. I'm going to use my little chainsaw to mill it. I'm just going to do it freehand, I think. I do it enough that I'm not bad. Here's a smaller one, maybe 7-footer. I don't really want the maple, but might as well. Look, you can see the history of it. 30% notch at, like, what, 30, 40 degrees. I left kind of a big hinge there. And then this was a plunge cut. The stump tells its history. It tells you everything about it and whether or not you know what you're doing. And then, after I made the plunge cut, everything was in order. Cleaned it all up, look, think, where's it going to land, super careful. And then this trigger, I'd like to take this trigger out with an axe. If you do it with an axe, then you can hear. I don't like taking the trigger out with a chainsaw because I feel vulnerable. You don't hear the crack and the creak that's telling you that it's about to go. Boy, it hit with a good thud, and I had to do some repair work in the yard because of the mass divots down the ground. But I hit my mark. I made a mark on the chalk within inches. So it was a good... It went off without a hitch. This was the worst of them. It was a leaner, and that one had me scared. But it went well. More felling later in the season. It's too cold. So I will do this milling later when it's warm. Quite a few of you have asked about this. So here's an update of it. It's probably been a year since that video. You can go back and look. And that brings me to buttons. Button magnets. I'm going to suspend the button magnet campaign for the time being. A few things to note. Those of you who I've already promised them to, you should get them shortly. But I stamped out a bunch of the new envelopes because my address changed. That's an actual stamp that I physically use. And I put it on the wrong side. That's where the postage stamp is supposed to go, and the address is supposed to be here. Oops. So if you don't get yours, and I promised it to you, I don't know, let me know, and I'll try to remedy it. The post office box, or the lady at the post office looked at me like I was some kind of moron, which perhaps I am, but she said, we'll send it and see what happens. Also, this is a bad example. Most of them aren't like this, but if you look at some of the button magnets, this is a really old one, they have spots of rust on them, and it's through no fault of my own. The printer ink was dried I dry them for days before I use them usually. Why did it rust? Because badge a minute just makes a junky metal, that's why. I'll change brands next time I buy badge parts, but for now, the hundreds and hundreds of them that are out there, they'll eventually rust if you have them in a high humidity environment, most likely. Yeah, Game Boy, I'm trying to fix this. It has a bad power contacts, and sorry about the lighting in here. The sunlight causes it to mess with the contrast, but take a look at this. This is a little plywood desk that I constructed to fit this space. It's a custom space. I sunk a piece of glass in there, and it's over top of a radiator, which is lovely. It gets light through the desk, and it heats that area. The glass never turns more than but warm. Never gets hot, because this is in the second floor. But isn't that cool? Okay, I think that covers everything I wanted to mention. It's my microscope. I'll see you some other time. But just to be clear, for now, no more button magnets for the time being. It's just problematic right now. Plus, I've been out of printer ink, and one problem after the next, you know. See ya.